Hi, folks. Welcome. Um, it's really important to start by identifying your goals. Some common goals are brand awareness, which is just how familiar folks are with your brand. Also, additionally, sharing news, updates, or communication tools. Social media can also be used to generate revenue, which so for a theater company selling tickets or any sort of product. If you're talking for yourself, for a personal account, you are your product, your services are your product. And also for the nonprofit side, social media can also be used to recruit volunteers and employees. There's lots of other goals you can pinpoint for your social media, but these are just a few to get you thinking. Great. So as you're starting to identify some of these goals, you want to touch base on who is your audience, who are you trying to talk to? So if you're a nonprofit or a theater company, sometimes this is defined by your mission statement. If you're an actor or a designer, you want to start to communicate with potential employers or collaborators. And you want to be able to meet these folks where they're at. So for example, like if you use Girls Inc., they primarily serve young teenage girls. So you're not necessarily going to get in contact with them so much on like LinkedIn. So you're going to use things like Instagram or Twitter to really engage with that younger audience. I provided some resources, things are linked, and we will be sharing the PDF and the webinar out after this. But so one great resource is Sprout Social. They have a whole demographic breakdown for what kinds of folks are using what kind of platforms. So again, once you've kind of identified your goal, you start to identify your audience, you can really pinpoint which platforms you want to invest your time into. Cool. So once you've kind of started to take these steps, identify which platforms you really want to invest your time and your effort into, you can ask yourself these questions of, why am I using this platform? Who will I reach on this platform? And what post types work best on this platform? And also, how unique are my posts to this platform? So things like YouTube. YouTube is a very saturated platform. Just about every blogger, streamer, there's tons of content on there. So you want to make sure, like, what are the unique things to my company or to my own personal brand that I can bring to this platform? Especially for theater companies, sometimes you run into the difficulty of, well, it's a live art. How do I transcribe that into a digital platform? There are definitely creative ways to do that, and we can get into that with, we're going to talk a little bit later about content creation, but these are just some starting questions to get you thinking. So the bulk of today, we're going to be talking about how to come up with a social media strategy. I've kind of reduced this into 3 sections, which is presentation and the setup, content, which is the main huge part of it, and also measuring your analytics and adjusting your content. So when I talk about presentation, when I talk about setup, when you're setting up these accounts, you want to make sure all of your @s are the same. So your handle, so all of ours were at LA Stage Alliance on every platform we're on. And this helps to increase brand recognition. So it's the same as like what your logo does. Like your logo is everywhere because you want people to be able to see it and recognize it and know immediately who they're talking to and what you're about. So it's the same with social media. You can do this through your profile picture. So if you are a company or an organization, you want to use your logo, you want to make sure it's high res, that it fits into the circle. Most profile pictures are a circle, with the exception of Facebook. Sometimes does it twofold, where when you comment, it's a circle, but sometimes it shows up as a square, like on the main page. So just my general rule of thumb is format it for a circle. And again, make sure it's not like cut off or like pixelated. If you're like an actor or a designer, you want to use something that showcases that as well. So like if you want to use a headshot, I think that's really great too. So if you yourself are the product, you want to make sure that people are becoming familiar with you and your voice. So using a picture is always great, and it personalizes it a little bit more. Especially like for designers, like I feel like you get really familiar with like, oh, I've heard the name and I've seen the work, but like you don't really know them. A big part about social media is that people want to know who you are. They want to connect with other people, which that can be tricky for theater companies or nonprofits when it's like, well, our thing is our work. you want to really, it can be scary, but you want to allow yourself for people to know your face, know who you are, and connect with you. And finding ways to do that through your social media can really help improve your reach and your engagement. So again, with increasing brand recognition, you want to make sure across all your platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, that it all is kind of united visually. So again, creating the same profile picture, your bio and your messaging, make sure it's cohesive. For nonprofits, this is what I do at LA Stage Alliance is I've taken our mission statement and kind of reduced it into like a 1-sentence quick, and I incorporated our hashtag into it. Also on platforms like Facebook and Twitter, you have the option of having a banner, which is really great. You can either use it like we do. Like right now we have up our Ovation marquee from the ceremony in January, but it can also be really prime real estate for marketing upcoming events or programs or things that you want folks to kind of like a call to action. And again, we'll get a little bit more into like branding and overall aesthetic. But having a cohesive look and feel can help people really recognize and engage with you better. And then also you want to make sure that all of your information, your links are up to date. I like to run through our social media every so often to make sure all of our links work properly, that we're not, if you've moved locations, that your address is up to date, all that kind of stuff. For things like Instagram and Twitter, what I like to do is use, they're like a link service that allow you to link to more things. So if you have multiple programs, multiple events happening at one time, or you have, like at LA Stage Alliance, we also have a digital media platform that we're releasing new content on regularly. So I like to use Linktree because it expands your opportunity. So you're not just linking to one thing. You don't have to just like pick one thing. You can pick multiple. There's also an app called Milkshake, which you can like use to plug into things similarly, but you can manipulate it more with more visual elements. So if that's kind of like more in line with your brand, or this can be really great if you don't have, like if your personal website isn't fully fleshed out yet, this can be really great for that because it can kind of work in substitution. So for a long time, like when I was in school, I didn't have like a personal website set up yet because I just like didn't have the time and I really didn't have enough content to put on it. So I used Milkshake so that I could still have like my picture, a little bio about what I'm like doing, some of like the professional things that I do. And it's not as scary as like delving into a whole website. But you could also use it to be like a mini website to link in or link through. Again, you can get really creative with those things and customize it to just kind of like be more cohesive with your overall brand. Cool. So getting into content. If you are a smaller nonprofit or company or an individual like artist, an actor, Canva is your best friend. So it's an online graphic design platform. I've always used the free tier personally in the beginning of like working with organizations. The free platform is honestly like bomb. Like a lot of times when platforms have like, like, oh, here's your free baseline, but like pay for more, the free kind of is like a little janky, but honestly, Canvas is great. And also if you're a nonprofit, you can access it for free. So that's what we have at LA Stage Alliance is we have, we've submitted the like form or whatever it is. Our IT guy, Mark, who was with us last week, submitted that paperwork, and we have access to all the pro version of Canva for totally free just because we're a nonprofit. So it's really great. And again, like it can do so much. And they have so many templates. You can build a branding packet within Canva to pull directly into the things you're building. So getting into branding packets, when you start to identify like your own brand or your company's brand, like, picking like your key colors, your fonts, your key design elements, like if you like always use polka dots or zigzags or things like that, you can save those things in your branding packet. And again, on Canva, you can save them directly into your platform. So that as you're building things, you can just pull them right in and make sure it's always cohesive and it's always unifying your brand. So also when you go to start posting things, it's really, really important to develop a posting schedule and to actually stick to it. One that I really love I mean, I sometimes hate it, but for the most part, love it, is Planoly. It's for Instagram. It allows you to schedule out your posts in advance and also preview what your feed's gonna look like. So it's really important to always go back for things like Instagram and look at how your feed looks overall. So you don't wanna be doing too much graphic. You don't wanna be doing too many just solely production pictures. You want a good variance. So Planoly is one really great option for that. Again, they have a free tier. They also have add-ons. Another one is Later, and there's also Hootsuite, which is a multi-platform scheduling service. So it can connect things like your Facebook, Twitter, and your Instagram all in one place, which can be really great if you're a marketing team of one and trying to do a lot of things for a lot of different programs and shows. That can be really, really great. So I adhere to a very strong rule of KISS, which is just keep it simple, sweetie. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to be straining yourself so much to pump out like new and like trying to go like viral. That's like something that can be very draining if you're a social media team of one, and especially for a lot of like smaller companies and smaller orgs, like you're already generally trying to do a lot of things. Don't stress yourself out trying to, do something totally different and new. So 3 things that I think are really help me and help, because at LA Stage Alliance, I also manage a few different programs, so I'm not solely a marketing person. So these 3 things really help me keep our social media consistently posting and active, which are quotes, reposting, and stories. So starting with quotes, again, I do these in Canva. I want Canva to sponsor me. I love Canva. But so I built a quote template, and then I just am able to then plug in the quote, adjust the colors accordingly, and then I'm done. And it's so easy. And that's one thing that I found for our Instagram and our audience that folks really respond to. And especially because at LA Stage Alliance, we run into difficulty because our biggest front-facing program, the Ovation Awards, only happens once a year. And so trying to come up with year-round content to keep people engaged can sometimes be difficult, but we found that things like quotes, people really engage with. So that works well for us. So going into another really great and easy thing is reposting. So this is an example that we had from the Ovation Awards. Our host, George Salazar, posted this on his own feed, and we were able to just then repost it straight onto ours. Reposting, 1, helps you engage with audiences, and then 2, kind of helps minimize how much content you're having to create. So you're not always necessarily having to be like, what can I post? What can I post? What can I post? It's kind of just there. Just got to roll with it. And just kind of see what people are tagging you in, especially if your location. So if you're like a theater company and like, say you have a really like gorgeous, I agree that George Salazar is an angel. So if your theater has like a really gorgeous like fountain outside and you're finding that people are tagging you in pictures, like posing by it a lot, repost those, hype it up. It'll make people want to take a picture at that spot and tag you in hopes that they'll be reposted, because that helps their engagement too, and also helps you just engage and connect with your audience. Like I always think of like the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion has like those gorgeous stairs and just like a gorgeous like theater. Like I would love to get a picture in there just to like have it because it's gorgeous. So think of things like that. Keep note of like what people are tagging you in. I really love, Deanna asked, what reposting app do I recommend for the iPhone? I like the Repost app. And again, it's tagged in this, or linked in this presentation. I'll share that out. It is awesome. It is free and it doesn't look janky, which is like always a win. If you're doing marketing on a budget, that can be something you run into a lot, is apps that are like, we can do this and we can do it for free, and then you download it and you're stoked and you get into it and it's either like janky or it's not actually free, things like that. But the Repost app, I love it. For Twitter, easy enough. Is built in of doing retweeting, and Facebook you can share. I will say with all of this, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are like still the big dogs. We won't get into TikTok. It's not really necessary, but those are the 3 big ones. And then with stories, so check your DMs, check what people are tagging you in and what folks are finding interesting. And share it to your story. Or if it's really, really cute, share it to your feed. Again, like through Ovation Awards season, like we get tagged in like some really darling content because people are stoked and they're stoked about their shows. And it's a really fun and easy way to engage with your audience. And so for actors, for example, like you might get folks coming to the show and maybe tagging you in it and things like that. Reshare it, gas it up. That's what it's for. There's also a really great way on Instagram to reshare posts to your stories if you don't want it to go on your feed. It can live on your story temporarily. And I really recommend saving things into your story highlights. So generally with stories after 24 hours, they disappear, but you can save it into highlights and you can categorize your highlights on your feed. So kind of like a highlight reel. So especially like for actors or for theater companies, getting to highlight, you know, shows you're doing, work you're doing, outside things, it really kind of offers, stories offer the opportunity for people to really like know your voice and know more of your personality. I kind of view the feed as like a little bit more curated, a little bit more produced in a sense, and your story is where people get to know your voice and get to engage with you and connect with you in a more personal way. So again, like don't be afraid to hop on there and like, you know, connect with your people. There's really great things like they do. You can do polls, you can do yes or no questions or like either or questions. There's all sorts of great features. And if folks are interested, we can definitely do more in-depth looks at different kinds of platforms and different features on different platforms. Again, today's a little bit more of like a broad overview. So continue with content, hashtags. Okay, so technically, yes, you could use up to like 30 hashtags. I really recommend that you don't. Uh, yes, Nikki, we can definitely do that. And if you guys have more questions, just let me know. I'm happy to talk about anything. With hashtags, I recommend using 4 to 6 relevant hashtags. It can be tempting to just like hop in there and hashtag everything that's slightly related because the temptation to like hopefully reach more people is really enticing. But I find that folks view it a little bit more genuine if you only use relevant hashtags. So for us, the ones that I always use hashtag LA Theater. There's an older hashtag that still gets used for LA Theater that's back from like when Twitter was very limited word count, and so theater is kind of condensed and it kind of looks like the word lather. So I tend to use LA Theater, spell out theater, and also that one as well because folks still do use that hashtag. Things like arts marketing or artist resource, things like that. What you want to do when you're thinking about hashtags and reach is the ones that you're thinking of using, go in and look at what's there. Because again, like if you're using a hashtag that's like super saturated, it has like millions of posts in one hashtag, the opportunity that folks are actually going to see your post in there are very limited. So if you can find some that have, you know, maybe in like the thousands range, those are people who are genuinely invested in that like area, that topic, and it's easier for you to like be seen. So that's my recommendation. And also interact with, you know, your audience and with similar accounts. What I like to do, one for inspiration, I have a few accounts in my mind that I always turn to when I'm like, does this work? Is there an example of this? I don't know. And I go and look at these accounts and kind of see what they're doing. One, to keep up on trends. Two, just sometimes you need some inspiration to get things going. But also if you can find similar accounts that you can interact with, that helps boost how your reach in the algorithm. The algorithm is a whole thing. We get very into it. For now, just kind of don't let it take up too much brain space. But the thing is like if more people are commenting on your post, that means they're engaging with your post. Vanity metrics are kind of what follower counts and likes are considered nowadays. I know it's nice to have like a fat follower number and to have like lots of likes on your pictures. That can feel really good, make you feel like you're like doing the thing. But you also want to consider like, are people actually engaging with me? Are people actually talking with me? Because that's what engagement is. It's not just like, I saw it, I liked it, I moved on. It's kind of more so, I saw the picture, I actually looked at it, I felt so inspired that I wanted to comment on it. And that's where you really want to focus your energy, is building those things. So especially if you're a smaller brand and you're looking to build, it's important to respond to all your DMs, to respond to all your comments. That helps people feel like they're actually connecting with you, makes people feel good. That's the thing with social media, is like, yes, it's a marketing platform, but people use it because they want to connect. So keep that in mind. I try to like approach our LA Stage Alliance Instagram in that way of like, this is our community. I want to talk to these people. I want them to know, like, I see them, I hear them. So that's why like I try to like keep a good mix of like funny, lighter comment, especially like with everything happening lately, keeping like some humor, but also providing resources and also promoting our events. A general rule of thumb is like a 3/4 rule of like 75% of your content should just be fun and engaging because you're looking to connect with your audience. Maybe the other 25%, you're asking for something in return. Because if you're just only activating your Instagram, like if you're a theater company, just because you have a show coming up and every post you put out is buy a ticket, buy a ticket, buy a ticket, people kind of get over that pretty fast because it's just like, oh, you want something from me. Whereas people go on social media because they want to give their brain a little bit of a break and they want to connect with other folks. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as you're building your brand and building your content. Again, consistency is key. So when we were talking about developing a schedule and actually sticking to it, that's a big part of this. Social media is a year-round investment in building your relationship with your audience. Again, like I was just saying, if you're only hopping on Instagram or Twitter when you want something, people can see through that pretty fast. Again, if you're a smaller organization or a smaller brand, like, you don't have to be great and big on every platform. Like 100% you should be on Facebook and Instagram. Like those two are huge. You can, again, depending on what you're trying to sell or market, adjust accordingly. You don't have to be all things in all places. But just remember that, again, it is a year-round commitment. It's not just like, oh, I'm in a show and I want people to come see my show. Like, we want people to be invested in you and in your brand. And again, increasing your followers and your engagement, it takes time. It's like, honestly, it takes a lot of time to do it in a genuine way. If you've ever bought followers or ever bought likes or anything like that, I am not shaming you, but cut it out. Like, because it's not really in the long run doing anything to help you better your content. Because it's kind of, if you're more of a data mindset person, it's flooding your data with useless information, because then you're not able to really tell like what content do people genuinely love and that I should like really invest in building content like that. Because it's like, if you bought a bunch of those followers, then you can't tell if they came from, like where they came from. So just, take a deep breath, recognize it's going to take time, and be okay with the fact that it's going to take time, because a slow build means a sustainable build. That means people who are really invested and interested in your brand and in you. So don't stress yourself out. We're not all going to go viral overnight. We're not all going to be influencers overnight, and that's okay. So getting a little bit into how to analyze your content. With all of this, we could get into this heavily. This is kind of, again, a rough overview. So understanding insights, like I was just talking about, it's not just about your vanity metrics, so how many likes and followers you have. It's more so about how much engagement do you have. So I have some screenshots here about how you can access that. On every platform's a little bit different, which can be very frustrating as you get into this kind of marketing, as you're like, why can't you all just be in one place and do it all the same? Like, I haven't even, to be honest, like Twitter analytics are still very confusing a little bit to me. Instagram is kind of my home and my forte, but you're going to find your insights. And so here you click on insights and you bring it up and you can see all this different information. I also have a GIF in the next slide that kind of walks you through looking at an overall insights, but this is on a post. So you can see on this post, we had 44 profile visits from this. We had we reached over 1,000 people. And yes, this is for, thank you, Nikki. That is a very good point. You can only view insights if you have a business or professional account. On a normal Instagram, you can't access this information, but Instagram has done a really great thing where you can have a business profile or have a professional profile and no one even has to know. So you can hide the fact that you're a professional business. Because it used to be that if, like, so my own personal account, I'm not really selling anything. I just wanted to know how many people were looking at my posts and like what that looked like, especially because I often use my personal account to kind of use it as a hamster for like the Lhasa account, and to just kind of like see how it works without like having to be like for work. But so on my personal account, like I have a professional profile and I was able to just hide the category. It used to be that you had to show like it said art or blogger or nonprofit, but now you can hide that. So if you're like an actor and you don't want to like, I know social media is kind of complicated. Sometimes it like taps into like weird feelings and self-esteem and things like that. But so if you're feeling like a little uncomfortable with being like, well, I want to start promoting myself, but I don't want it to like super look like I am, you can hide that stuff, but still have access to your insights, which is really, really great. So yes, professional accounts only can access this information. And so this is really useful for if you're trying to like, so for us, for the Ovation Awards, like we want people to be clicking our website. We want people to be looking at our profile because we want them to hopefully buy a ticket or access the live stream and engage with the ceremony. So we can see like when we announced our host, like, yeah, we got like 230 likes, like that's awesome. But out of that, we only got 44 profile visits, which actually I shouldn't say only because that's actually really impressive. Because we didn't boost this post at all, because you can pay to boost and market your post and have it access more people. So this was all organic reach. And that could be a whole other webinar of like talking about like organic reach versus like paid promotion, like boosted post. But so for an organic post that I didn't pay any money on, we had 44 profile visits and 8 people clicked the website. So that's really, really great. When you're looking at these numbers, I really encourage you to just crack open a spreadsheet, start tracking some of this data. Again, don't solely track the amount of likes you're getting, track the engagement, track that reach, because like over 1,000 people on a post that I paid nothing for is really, really great. So we kind of want to be like, what about this post do people love so we can recreate it in the future? And that's where adjusting the content comes in. So again, try new things, see what your audience responds to. The little video on the left is kind of looking at the overall insights. You can access this by looking on your feed in your profile and then clicking insights, and it gets into all sorts of information, allows you to see the demographics of who you're reaching. Like for us, like majority of our folks are in LA. But if you're an actor and you're trying to like have a larger reach that's not just LA, you can start to see like, well, are folks in New York responding to my things? Or where are these people? Again, it's just important to be aware of these things. I, again, encourage you to track this data so you can kind of start to figure out like, oh, people really love this. Like for my own personal page, like I know that people don't really care when I post like more, just like an artsy picture where I thought like, oh, the lighting was cool on that building. But if I post like a selfie, or I really like, a big thing I do is like my outfits, like my work outfits are like a thing on my Instagram. People like that a lot more, especially because like people can see your face. People want to engage with other people. People don't want to engage with a robot. And especially now, like I know it can be kind of hard, like amongst everything that's happening, and it is really stressful. And it kind of feels like everyone's doing an Instagram live every like so many every day, and that can be a lot. Just again, keep in mind like what works for you, what works for your brand. You don't have to be everything for all people. On that note, like social media is constantly changing, and I know that can be so overwhelming. It can feel like I just figured out how to read these analytics, and now you're packaging it in an entirely different way, and I have to learn like a whole new way to like read this data. That can be very frustrating, especially like new platforms come out all the time. Like I mentioned earlier, TikTok is a really big thing. I'm in my early 20s, so I am familiar with TikTok. I'm on TikTok, and I will say like it's so obvious when like brands make an account and they like clearly don't understand the vibe. They don't understand like the content that's on that platform. So you don't have to like, don't feel like you have to be on every single new thing that comes out, or your organization has to have a TikTok. You really don't. Because again, like if it's not organic and it's not natural to your brand, people can feel that so quick. So just be true to you, be genuine, and you'll be okay. Swear, promise. Cool. So the big takeaways are be patient and be realistic. I know that can be really hard. Keep it simple, be genuine and true to your brand, and be open to learning. Again, things change. Social media, digital media is constantly evolving, sometimes faster than we can keep up with. There's tons of really great resources, like I mentioned earlier, and they're linked in this PowerPoint, and we'll be sharing it. Things like Planoly, look to like companies like those that are kind of more on the, they're not necessarily like a social media platform, they're supporting like kind of like an additional app that supports like a platform. They tend to have a lot of really great resources. Again, Planoly is one that I absolutely love because they have a blog that gets into it. They're like, here's exactly how you read your analytics. Here's exactly how, like, because they're an Instagram partner. So they're kind of working hand in hand to help provide resources, because obviously they want people to use those platforms. So they want people to be able to understand them. I know that can be overwhelming. If you have questions, I'm here to answer them. I know that was a lot of information. What questions are coming up for you guys? I know some of y'all are more so like looking at personal accounts versus an organizational account. Are there any questions? Yes, so I should have prefaced it with this, but we're recording today's webinar. We are going to put it on our YouTube page. That's a platform we're actually starting to look into more providing resources on. And I will put the YouTube video on Facebook so that you all have access to it. I know I talk a little fast. You might want to put me like in a half speed so you can understand what I'm saying sometimes. But yes, there will be a recording available. Great. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, and also like on that, I will personally ask Courtney to emphasize certain platforms if we're doing something. So I know most of our Ovation voters live on Facebook and connect with us on Facebook. So if it's an announcement for our Ovation voters, I'll tell her to like really heavily push this on Facebook. And so that way I can also share it with the various Facebook groups I'm in as well. So yeah, like put it on everything, but also like knowing where people are going to connect with that content. Courtney, you mentioned this a little bit, and I think it gets downplayed a lot in marketing workshops of the like emotional baggage that comes with social media. Could you just talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, totally. So I think sometimes it can be a mistake to just approach social media as like strictly from a marketing mindset, because it's really not. So much of it, like so many of us put our lives on social media. It's where we go to connect with other people. It can be a very emotionally vulnerable space, and especially things like likes and followers and engagements. Sometimes it can get to you. Like I'm not too proud to admit that sometimes, yeah, like I'll post a picture and I think I'm like, oh, I look so cute, I'm doing this great thing, and then no one really cares or engages with it, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm embarrassed now, and that's, you know, triggering, like I feel a little low self-esteem-y. Like that totally happens. And if you feel that way, especially for like actors and design, like using it as a self-promotional tool, oh my gosh, that can be really scary to put yourself out there. So that is a thing. Don't feel weird if you sometimes feel that way on social media. Um, and just keep that in mind too when you're engaging with other folks. And especially if you're running an organization's social media, recognize that that's where a lot of people are coming from and engaging with your content. So that's where I always like to kind of meld the professional with the personal. I'm a very holistic thinker like that. I like to, we're not strictly just, employees and just workers. We are emotional beings. So keep that in mind when you're posting and wanting people to engage with your content. Yes. Yeah, totally. Well, and especially like if you're a designer, like so much, it's your work first. It's not necessarily like when you're an actor and it's like, I am the product. A designer is like, here's my skill set. And so like putting yourself out there can be like, so it's like almost like job interviews. Like you go in and you're like, please like me, please hire me. And it can be very stressful.
And Brandy talking about posting videos of yourself as a designer, something that a lot of people forget is that social media, just like theater, is a collaborative place. And so have your actors tag you, like if they're taking a picture in costume, have them tag you because you're the designer and that's still your work and you can still reshare those things. And if a theater company is posting pictures of their production, make sure you're sharing those saying like, I'm the designer. And also it's like, make sure to also show love on social media, like remembering like we're all in this together. It's really, so I'm not ashamed to say that like if I post something that I'm like, I don't really know how this is gonna land, I will text my friends and be like, please like this. Courtney knows because I make her do that all the time. So
And I make Michaela do it for me and I make my sibling do it for me.
I'm like, I literally would be like, I just posted this. I don't know if it's weird or not. Can you just like it? That's what social media is just as collaborative as theater because it's a gathering in a place to talk about something that's important to us. Sorry.
Definitely. And that fine. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier of like engage with similar accounts. Like Michaela was just saying, like we're all in this together. There's actually something Michaela and I have discussed this quite a bit in the office is Instagram influencers do this thing where they create like a pod where they like tell each other they're like, I'm gonna like your stuff, I'm gonna gas you up. Like one, that encouragement is great. Two, it boosts how the algorithm sees that your post is doing and shows it to more people. So don't be afraid to like, if you're a designer and like I'm sure like your friends who are also designers are feeling probably somewhat the same thing. Like you can, honestly, you don't have to like tell them like, we're going to be in a pod, we're going to do this thing. Just start commenting more on other people's stuff. And oftentimes they'll want to return the favor then when they see your thing. Like I'm a big, like I love hyping anyone. Like if I see a girl posting a selfie, I'm like, girl, yes, I stand so hard. And I'm constantly commenting on other people's things. I found that then those people want to comment on my things too. And that's where it goes back to like, this is about connecting with one another. It's not just about likes and follows.
Is there a big question just popped up. I'm gonna just read this out loud so it's in the video.
Yeah.
If you aren't trying to be an influencer or social media personality of any type, but are curious more about using accounts for professional outreach, of what value do you think that is? Is it best to create a second page account and make a professional feed so that something's public to find for people to look you up? And is it important to be active there or just have a curated and up-to-date account page available? This makes perfect sense. And Courtney, do you mind if I tackle this because this was like when I was freelancing last year?
Totally, go for it.
As a stage manager primarily. So I thought about this a lot. About a year and a half ago, I was freelancing as just like a general arts admin person. And I did think of starting like a professional page, but I didn't feel like that content was actually that much different. And I know a lot of the stuff that I naturally post on my Instagram tends to be about work and tends to be about the projects I'm working on. And so trying to have two separate pages just really felt inauthentic to me. And I think it really and also I've never been the kind of person that posts, like I travel a lot, I go to concerts a lot. That's part of who I am, and I don't think I need to hide that side of me. Uh, Even if it's like unprofessional. I will also comment that like the concept of professionalism is really, really rooted in patriarchal white supremacy. And so the fact that like Courtney loves her posting her outfits, I love going to concerts, like those things don't make us unprofessional just because we're young women who appreciate social media. And that's also like when I was looking for a marketing person, I was like, Courtney knows how to engage with people. And that was something that I needed for LA Stage Alliance and was a big reason of why I hired her. So yeah, if you're typically more comfortable quietly behind the scenes as a professional, which I get as like an arts admin person or like you're a stage manager, you don't always have to be constantly posting. And also, like, it is like I have definitely gotten jobs through Facebook groups, mostly through Facebook groups or Instagram, and I just make sure like Facebook to me, I use Facebook just to post about work. If I have a work event, if I went to an event, if I like the Ovation Awards, and then my Instagram is like I went to a concert, I went to Thailand, I'm hanging out with my cat, like while also still posting about work. So you don't need two separate pages because also LA theater, we're so small, we all know. All my friends know that I love the Ovation Awards just as much as I love going to Warped Tour. Like those are both parts of my personality. So I hope that helps. Like you don't have to hide yourself behind this mask of professionalism to the standards that you think like look professional. Oh, I will mention though, like this happened in a Facebook group I was in last 2 weeks ago. People were acting like jerks. People were being really mean to each other. People were saying horrible things to each other, and that is unprofessional. Like, and I can now look through their entire profile and see what types of projects they work on. And I don't want to work with that person because they're mean. That had nothing to do with like the actual content they were posting, but how I saw them interacting with other people. So be careful of that too. Not that I think any of you are mean people, but hope
And
that
I will say, the only time I would ever say like have a second like account would be if you keep your account private. So like if you're wanting people to be able to view your like a professional side of you, but you for the most part are a very private person, like that's totally fine. And it's okay to have a second account that's like more, you know, public facing. That is okay. And I do agree with Michaela, like I think it is a generational gap because I also use Facebook for like solely for like it's like a more personal LinkedIn, whereas Instagram is like my full self. So again, like depending on how you interact with social media, it might be a little bit different. And Deanna, I do see your comment about how do you change a personal account to a professional account. All you have to do is go into your Instagram, and in the upper right hand corner there's like the little menu bar. It's the 3 horizontal lines. You're going to click settings, you're going to go down to account, and then you're going to at the very bottom, like so mine says switch to personal account or switch to a business account. I think I have mine set as a creator account.
Does anyone else have any questions? And if there's something more in depth you want us to go over, you can message us on social media. And the whole purpose of these workshops that we're providing for you guys is to make sure that you have the resources to be able to keep going during a time like this. Like, how do we take this moment to ground ourselves as artists and push forward on some of the things that we never have the time to do, like build our websites or social media. And we are going to be doing another one of these next week, and it's going to be with me, and we're going to talk about strategic planning and values-based planning, which is my personal favorite topic that I'm excited to share with you guys. Well, thank you all for being here. I think we'll
Thank you
probably
guys.
close out if there's no other questions. Thank you, Courtney. So proud of you for doing this. You're awesome. Meme queen.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And follow us on social media at LA Stage Alliance. And if you guys